Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always, told out of Voice of Radio. So today we need to take a look at the most valuable, most expensive cards, most sought after special illustration rare supporters from every Scarlet and Violet set. Well, the ones that made it on the list anyway. And there are a few I need to shout out before we get here that didn't make the list. Scarlet and Violet does not have a card on the list. Miriam wasn't one of the most sought after cards in the entire game when it came out. The English version of Miriam right now is like a $20 card. Cool card, don't get me wrong, but didn't even get particularly close to this list. The I&O from Paldean Fates is around about a $21, $22 card. Again, did not make it onto this list. And, you know, the Erica from 151 that was an incredibly sought after card on release. Yeah, that's down to like a $15 card right now. Quite frankly, it did not make the list. These are phenomenal cards that everybody loved and everybody wanted that don't even make the top 10. And as a side note, that means there are bargains to be picked up with these cards, wink, wink. But which cards did go and make the list? Well, that, ladies and gentlemen, is where I come in. So starting off at number 10, we've got the special illustration rare of Bianca's Devotion from Temporal Forces, currently coming in at about $25. And at this point, we know enough to know that this is not a hugely playable card, because it's been out for a while. Most of these, we've got the answer at this stage as to exactly the playability of them. It's a decent enough card, don't get me wrong. You get to heal all damage from one of your Pokemon that has 30 HP or less remaining, which sounds pretty good and in a way is, but the reality is it rarely works. Going more recent, in at number 9, we've got Briar, coming in at about $28. Of course, Briar from the new Stellar Crown expansion. Although please do remember, cards from newer expansions do tend to be a little bit artificially inflated. So there is an argument here that this might slip down the list as time goes by. But either way, we got beautiful artwork here with Briar and a card that lets you take an extra prize. Now, you can only play it when your opponent's got exactly 2 prize cards remaining, so it's not that easy to actually make work, I understand. But, yeah, make no mistake about it, this card is phenomenal. In at number 8, we've got Morty's Conviction from Temporal Forces. Comes in at about $34. And it's a card that I don't see people talking about all that often. But it's got Gengar on the artwork. And Gengar's an incredibly popular Pokemon. And honestly, this is always going to be a pretty popular card just by virtue of the fact that it's got Gengar on the artwork. As a card, it pops up in decks occasionally. You got to discard a card from your hand and then draw one for each of your opponent's bench. So you can potentially draw, I mean, now that we've got Area Zero Underdepths in the format, there's a possibility that this can be used to draw 8 cards, which is nuts. So it's a card I've got my eye on, put it that way. But right now, beautiful card, Gengar on the artwork, there's your answer. In at number 7, we've got Lana's Aid from Twilight Masquerade, coming in at about $37. And this is one of those cards where it's largely an artwork thing. It's a character, Lana, it's the artwork, stunning. It's not really about the playability of the card, I don't wish to sound rude. But the fact is, this has been, legal for a while at this stage, and we know it's not that good. Put free in any combination of Pokemon that don't have a rule box and basic energy from your discard pile into your hand. Sounds pretty good, but we've been around enough to know that it's just not actually that good anymore. Sorry. In at number 6, we've got Kieran from Twilight Masquerade. And I got to be honest with you, Twilight Masquerade is giving us a little bit more than we might have imagined. Twilight Masquerade prices as a whole seem to be holding a bit better than most sets. So Kieran here, the graph's got a bit crazy towards the end, ignore that. It's about a $38 card-ish. And now Kieran is a decent card. We saw it a bunch at North American Internationals. We've not seen it anywhere near as much since. But it's one of those cards that gives you a couple of options. Either you use it as a switch, not ideal, but if it's the only way you've got to switch, you'll love it. Or you can use it to do 30 more damage this turn. Either way, it's a win. For me, it's just the artwork chilling out there at a festival that makes me very, very happy. And the memory of pulling it in a hotel room before an event, after someone from Pokemon hand delivered me an early Elite Trainer box. It was fun! That video's online. You can go and check it out on my channel. Coming in at number 5, we've got Lacey from Stellar Crown, which is the highest card from the most recent set here. Stellar Crown's the most recent set. Lacey is the highest card we see on there. Currently chilling at about $45, but do remember, as I've said, cards from the recent set do tend to be slightly overrated for a little bit. So please do bear that in mind. The chances are that over time this one probably will keep going down for a little bit of a while. And the thing is, Lacey's cool and the artwork's lovely. It's got Crispin on there and it's got Drayton on there. But it's a shuffle draw 4. But if your opponent's got 3 or fewer prize cards remaining, it's a shuffle draw 8. But by that point, it's quite late in the game, and we usually want to be playing Disruption supporters. One to bear in mind, absolutely. But I don't think it's going to be the big card as we get there. Now, I do think these next 4 are going to earn their way and be the top 4 for a little while here. In at number 4, we've got ourselves Cassiopeia. This is the one from Shrouded Fable, and sure, it's dropped quite a bit down to like $51, but Shrouded Fable's been out for nearly 2 months now, and it's still chilling there at, just over $50, and it's not that playable a card, and that kind of tells you what you need to know. But partly here, it's Cassiopeia, who, I suppose, spoiler alert, is actually Penny, but that means that it's always going to be popular. There's the Eevee Rotom phone, there's a Sylveon in the background. It's a card that people are going to love. Now, it searches you can only use it if it's the last card in your hand, but you search for any 2 cards and put them in your hand. Seems like there's potential here in decks that can empty their hand easily. Reality is, it's not actually seen all that much play, but that is not the reason it comes in at number 4. In at number 3, the one that was for a long time the biggest, and I still think when we shake out at the end is going to remain the biggest, we've got Ino coming in at $58. Now, the fact that there is another print of this, the one I showed you earlier from Paldean Fates, honestly probably doesn't help. But what we've got here is just one of the absolute best cards in the entire game. One that is a staple in a whole heap of decks. And it's ridiculous artwork. It always reminds me of Pokemon Sweets and makes me want to go back to Pokemon Sweets in Ikebukuro in Tokyo and get some more Pokemon Sweets. But it's the one whereby you and your opponent shuffle their hand and you both put them at the bottom of their deck. And then you draw 1 card for each remaining prize. If you watch a Pokemon stream like the one in Dortmund this weekend, you will see Ino being played over and over again. It's a staple in almost every deck. It's one of the best cards in the entire game. So, that artwork, combined with the popularity of the character, combined with the card, that really does tell you it's going to stay. But right now, it's only at number 3. In at number 2 is Perrin, which is currently coming in at $70. And this is very much an artwork thing. Remember, we do have the Growlithe card, the Hisuian Growlithe card, that makes a literal, it makes one image with this Perrin, which honestly, cards that make one image between 2 of them do end up more popular overall. But we've got lovely art here by Ghidorah. As for the card, reveal up to 2 Pokemon in your hand, put them in your deck, basically swap 2 Pokemon in your hand for 2 Pokemon in your deck. It's cool, but honestly here, it's not seeing any real play. It's a popularity contest, and Perrin is almost winning, but not quite. In at number 1, we've got Carmine coming in at about $85. Number 1 by a bit of a margin, which honestly surprises me here. And I think, and I could be wrong here, but I think Twilight Masquerade, despite the fact we've had Shrouded Fable and Stellar Crown released since that, I do think we're in a situation where this is still benefiting from that new set bump, despite not being that new. I just don't think this set as a whole has fallen down as much as we would imagine. Because Carmine's decent, don't get me wrong. You know, discard your hand and draw 5 cards, but it can be used turn 1 going first. Did see a bunch of play in Lugia, although that has actually dropped off quite a bit since. But the reality here is it's not seeing a huge amount of play. It's a popular enough character, don't get me wrong, but popular enough to warrant this? I don't think so, frankly. I understand it's number 1 right now, and look, I'm the one making the list. I've had a look through, and I'm telling you, it is sitting there at number 1. I just don't think it's going to last. I think if we're doing this list in a few months' time, I would be surprised, frankly, if this card was still sitting in there at number 1. That's what I think. But now we've reached that point where it's time to know what you think. Do you honestly believe that there are 4 Special Illustration Rare supporters, all 4 of them, from Twilight Masquerade that deserve to be on this list? Tell me in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at Lawasi. That's where we talk about Pokemon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.